All right, Tyler Green, welcome to the Single Track Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Finn.
Before we get to Western States, I do want to talk a bit about your background and just other involvements in the ultra community. And one thing I found interesting prepping for this interview, I was scrolling through your ultra sign up, and it looks like about 5 or 6 years ago, you had a near golden ticket miss at the Gorge Waterfalls 100K. And it's a lot of, it's kind of like the butterfly effect, right? Because if Walmsley hadn't had to race his way in, you would have had that experience. So I don't know. I find that stuff kind of fun to talk about. So
Yeah.
was Western a goal at that time? Like talk about that era of your running.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I think it was, I don't know if it was possible for me at that time. I didn't know if it was possible for me at that time, I should say. And the year prior, I was signed up for Gorge Waterfalls as well and was dealing with a stress fracture, rookie year mistakes sort of thing,
Yeah.
getting too excited about running. But yeah, it was a really close race too. I think at the last aid station I was hearing I was like 3 minutes behind, and then I bonked pretty hard and lost a few minutes there. But of course, there's always I can't control that whether Walmsley's going to show up or not, consider it similar
Right.
to last year as well. And you can't live in those what ifs either. Yeah, I mean, I gave it my all to try to make it there, and then actually the next year I ended up third place at another golden ticket. So
That's
it was a
right.
little bit of a monkey on my back for a little while, and I was really happy to punch it through at Bandera the year after that.
I love talking ultra running history. So that's all fascinating to me. Couple other things. You have one of the coolest website names I've ever come across, Ultra Running Side Hustle. Can you talk about how that name was generated and just how it came about?
Yeah, well, my wife is a medical student and medical and researcher, and I'm a teacher. And we always kind of looked at running as kind of the side thing that we were doing, and just trying to make it work in the midst of our other careers. And so it came up with this idea of ultra side hustle, but also we do some coaching as well. And so the idea of kind of, for the most part, everybody's got other stuff they're going on, and this ultra thing is just on the side, something that we love to do. And so keep hustling at it, keep going for it. That's where it comes from.
Speaking of your partner, Rachel Drake, I imagine that having a partner who competes also at the highest levels of the sport is pretty awesome. Maybe talk a bit about some of the benefits of that relationship as it applies to your own training and preparation for races like States.
So my wife's pregnant. She's due at the end of September.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. So we're extremely excited about that, and then also thinking about, well, how does our transition into parenthood affect our running, and how will we kind of work that all in? Last year, Rachel is my number one training partner, and can put me on the ropes many times where I get a big fitness boost from just chasing her up and down mountains. And so that's one major benefit, is just having someone who's that strong that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And then that we're able to connect so well out in the mountains. I mean, I feel like that's really where we thrive together, or one of the places where we thrive together. And I just thoroughly enjoy the times when we can go out and go out and do a really good adventure run. So that's like the ultimate benefit, is just having such good positive vibes happening during these adventure runs. And occasionally we fight too, but mostly it's all good. And then I'll just say that, so this year in preparation for Western States, it's been a little bit different because
Yeah.
while Rachel, she's been great or she's still running quite a bit. But it's slowed down a decent amount. And so we go on some nice easy runs together on occasion, but those bigger training runs, I haven't had Rachel with me, and that's been pretty challenging. Actually, it's a huge shift. And one of the big, I don't want to say disappointments, but just like it's the thing that I love about training, is being able to do it with my best friend and partner.
Yes.
And not having her there it hasn't quite been the same. So we're making do. And then on the other side of things is she understands this aspect of racing, and
Right.
and she talks about like, well, if I'm not racing, then you're racing for the both of us, which I could interpret that with some added pressure, but instead it's her kind of bolstering me up and saying, I got a lot of her good energy to be able to continue to run well. And she takes care of some meals and stuff like that, to make sure that I'm training well. I mean, probably more than I realize right now, she's taking up, some different duties around the house, and just so that I can kind of prepare fully for what's ahead. Thanks, Rach.
No, I really appreciate
she's
such an in-depth picture.
She's downstairs listening to all this too, so I'm getting some serious points.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you mentioned that you're a teacher, and I think it's fair to say that you're definitely one of the best runners in our sport at this point in time. Given that this is a side hustle, do you feel like you have all the tools in your life to perform at the top of the sport, like enough time, enough resources, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that, well, and this is actually my last year of teaching, so I'm going to be moving on to some coaching and other things. So I think that in some ways, it has helped me to not overtrain, to put certain just restrictions on my enthusiasm for running, and that can be a really positive thing, to have a different life that goes along with the running. And then on the other side of things, Rachel and I both talk about how we feel like we've been able to do a decent amount with not much, and we're excited to kind of make this transition and to put a little bit more of a priority on the running, to see if that can give us an additional boost as well. So
very cool. Well, I know that one of the biggest things missing in this training block was having your training partner in the mix for a lot of it, but was there anything else you were doing differently this time around in preparation for Western States compared to last year? And maybe just talk about like where your mind's at, where your body's at heading into this race.
Yeah. Well, I think probably, let me think about this. So Gorge Waterfalls was the end or the start of April. And that was the end of my kind of 50K part of the season. I did 3 different 50Ks, and I hadn't done a 50K in probably 2 years. And that was definitely a change for me. Required a little bit more of like an intensity of racing, if that makes sense. In a 100-miler, I feel like things kind of unfurl much more slowly, whereas
right.
in a 50K, you've got to be in it and on it from the very start. And so that honed my racing skills a little bit, as well as running at an intensity that was primarily really pretty uncomfortable for me. And that was a really good challenge. And then, so I feel like that was a good stimulus, just to race in a different way. And then took a week off, another week kind of to transition into Western States training. And I'd say preparation compared to last year was fairly similar. My coach, Matt Lay, he says objectively that I'm considerably more fit than last year, which I like to hear that. But I don't think the training blocks were maybe just like slightly more, I don't know, intense isn't the right word, but a little bit higher volume, a little bit more intensity, nothing too extreme. I feel confident in the type of training that I've done in the past, and that it doesn't need to be reworked, or that training needs to somehow be eye-popping, because I'm not just training. It's not just the 10 weeks of preparation prior to Western States that are going to get me to the finish line. It's the years prior to that, and this much, much longer story that a longer story of training and racing and gaining experience and gaining wisdom that is going to make me successful on race day.
This may not be the case anymore, but I did listen to a previous interview you've had, and I think you mentioned that you like to change it up in terms of races. You don't always like to come back to races to do it a second or a third time. This is your second time at Western States. You got second last year, which is a dream outcome for most people. I'm curious what motivates you this time around. Is it purely trying to win the race, or is it something else?
Yeah, and actually this is my third time.
Third,
in 2019.
Sorry.
In 2019, I was 14th and made a considerable jump in terms of my finishing time, but I think that it's even bigger jump when you think about the difference in weather conditions as well.
Yep.
So what motivates me? I think there's only one way. When you finish second place, there's only one way that you can improve the outcome of your race, and that's to win the race. But there are 100 different ways to improve the race, your race itself, and to improve upon the way that I race and how I feel about my finish. And I think that while I look at it certainly, like, second place was so much of a dream outcome for me. I mean, last year I was thinking, I think maybe I could place fifth. And then I started thinking, if you can place fifth, then maybe you can place third. And if you can place third, then why can't you maybe win it? Who knows? I think that same sort of, I bring that same sort of perspective in terms of the outcome of the race. In terms of the process, I know that there are a number of ways that I can improve the quality of the race that I put forth next week. And that will be my focus. I know where the minutes are and where they can be chopped off, and that's going to be my goal. And I think I don't see why another jump in terms of finishing time isn't possible.
That's exciting. The last question I have for you, could you give us some insight into the gear that you're using on race day?
Yeah, we have a really exciting shoe that we're working on with Nike that I'm excited to use once again. I actually used it as a prototype last year as well, which it's just a little faster, a little snappier, in a nice crisp white color. So and I love wearing white shoes for racing, so I'm excited about those. Besides that, I'll be using Hydro Pack handhelds are really a really solid way to be able to both keep hydrated as well as keeping myself wet regularly. And what else? I actually like to do a switch so that for the first 25 miles all the way up to Duncan Canyon, I'll start with a hydration pack. And I just like kind of not having to worry about having anything in my hands for that first section. So I'll wear my Osprey Duro 1.5 for the first section, and then drop that off with my crew at Duncan Canyon, and then switch over to the handhelds, and that's when heat protocol really starts. So those are the main pieces. Drinking Tailwind, that always seems to go well with my stomach, kind of mixing up the flavors and stuff. And hopefully not carrying a whole lot of gear. I mean, just keep it light and keep it fast.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, I'm super excited to follow your race. We're about a week out here. It's exciting times in our sport. I'll make sure to link to all of your social profiles in the show notes, your coaching stuff, to anything else you want to leave the audience with before we go.
Make sure you tune in to the live broadcast. It's going to be a blast. And hopefully you all get out to Western State someday to watch it as well. It's a magical experience. I can't wait to be with the community. Yes.
Shout out Dylan Bowman, Corinne Malcolm, Billy Yang, the crew. Awesome. Sweet. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben. Have a good day.